I really don't have time necessarily to talk about the wedding, but I figured I would show you something here that I thought was very helpful. One of these days I'll put this in presentation mode, but what I did was I made sure to take time to communicate with the bride and groom beforehand how the photo shoot was going to work so that they would be prepared ahead of time. They could be relaxed. They didn't feel like they would have to be posed. They would know already what was going to be happening. So let me just read this email to you and show you what I mean by that. To help the pics go smoothly on the wedding day, let me give you a heads up on a few posing terms that I'll probably throw out to get some nice variety throughout the day. Feel free to pass this on to Cole too, so that we'll all be on the same page. Of course, these are just defaults that I go to when there isn't something already more candid that happens more naturally or that you feel like doing. The goal isn't to pose you guys. The goal is to capture that new affectionate interaction with each other, however it may happen throughout the day. So right up front, they now no longer have to feel like, okay, we have to do every single pose perfectly. James is there just to capture the interaction. But I have some ideas to help you know how to interact with each other if, obviously, they're going to need some ideas. So these are the ideas. These 9 ideas are things that I pulled from places that I've studied online, and will continue to add to this database as time progresses and hopefully make it an integral aspect of linspiration.com/proposing. So number 1, the V'd up pose. So whenever I say, okay, now just V up, all I'm meaning is that they basically stand together the way they would most naturally stand together, hips together, facing each other. Just stand together, hips touching is basically what I mean when I say V'd up. So I throw out that term and they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Stacked up. The groom stands behind the bride, or the bride stands in front of the groom. It doesn't really matter, but usually it's the groom standing behind the bride, and that's okay, now stack up. And if I can say that, then they know exactly what to do, and you can do all sorts of variations with this. Now this is a picture from Pinterest, so I cannot take credit for this image. I just didn't have any good stacked images that I could find of my own portfolio. So credit to where credit is due from those who are on Pinterest. I'm sure you could find that. It's a very popular image. Okay, opened up. Another pose. This is a way to get them to do something different. In other words, standing apart from each other. And then you could mix this up in any way you wanted to, whether they are holding hands or not holding hands, or touching heads, standing really far apart and like reaching toward each other in the middle, kneeling, the husband kneeling and kissing the bride's hand, different things that you can do with set apart. Then closed up, when they are both facing each other and just as close as they can together, face each other close together, close up. And then of course there's the dip, the very this is a really beautiful thing to do if you can learn to explain it. And one of these days I'll put together a video on that, how to explain how to help a couple do the dip. From the closed up position, groom holds the bride's waist and back and leans her gently backward. It's that simple. Now there's 2 types of dips. There's one that's just very gentle like this, and there's another one that's very much more intense, where basically they stand side by side from each other. I don't know, it's a little more difficult to explain, but this is good enough for starters. Then we have the walk, where essentially they're set apart, but they are just walking toward the camera, and they can do different things from holding hands to linking arms to, I don't know, there's different variations you can do with that. Then there's the lift. The groom lifts the bride, and the bride lifts both legs or just one. So that's a really This is a way to get outside the box. It's an idea, something to do when you arrive on location, and you can tell them to give her a spin or something like that. And usually, see what I'm doing? I'm capturing the interaction among them. I tell them to do a pose, I tell them to do something, and then I photograph them as they do it, or the climax of when they achieve the pose, you know. So in this particular case, here's another one, the carry. The groom sweeps the bride off her feet to carry her across the threshold. So you say something like that. So it's pick up the bride and give her a spin or something like that. Spin her around for giggles. And so they're doing this thing, and the couple is so in love with each other right after a wedding that when you give them something to do, then they'll play along with it, and it's just this atmosphere of fun and beauty. And then there's the idea of stepping apart from each other, or setting apart from each other, where you have one of the couple in focus up front and the other in the background, much smaller, doing something different. And of course, like I said, there's a million variations and many other possibilities that we could do depending on the surroundings that you feel like going to. The sky's the limit, but hopefully these basic terms will help us communicate well with each other and keep things moving in the limited amount of time that we have. And that's the challenge with wedding photography. In wedding photography, you always have a limited amount of time. If you have 30 minutes of time to work with the bridesmaids or the groomsmen or the couple, then you're doing pretty good. Thankfully, in this situation, I had about an hour with the couple at the end. They didn't have a tight schedule, so that was really nice. And that was actually a suggestion that was made after she had sent me the schedule. She had sent me the schedule and had about 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes for the bridal party, 15 minutes for all the family gatherings, groupings, and then 15 minutes for the couple together. And I knew that an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half, sometime of that period or less, I was not going to get those three groups the way that she wanted. So I went ahead and suggested, do you have some time after the ceremony or after the reception, that after the getaway we could go to a local park? And I didn't know if there was a local park nearby, so I looked around and worked with my second photographer. He knew the area much better than I did, and he found a really cute little park. It was in the middle of the city. I thought when I first parked, I was like, this is terrible. I mean, it was like a city park, almost like skateboarders and like picnic tables, and it just didn't seem to me like a good place to go. But then when I got out of the car and I started walking around on Friday before the rehearsal, just looking, what would I do in this situation if I had a couple? What would I tell them to do? And I started seeing, well, look at that bridge. Look at that water that's flowing through this area. If that was blurred in the background, it wouldn't look as bad. And you know what? Those cement walls are very clean. That would actually make a very nice blurred background. And things to interact with. So I got excited about the area after doing a little bit of scouting, and it turned out that we were actually able to go to that park at the end, and there was actually across the street there was a little old cabin, and just it was beyond perfect for that situation. So you don't have to be out in the middle of the wilderness in order to take pictures like that are beautiful. When you have a good subject, you can use almost any location to get a good picture. So that's what I have for today. Thank you so much for listening. If there are any other questions, feel free to let me know.